Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled A Mistake Led to a Good Ending. So, this will be my first ever post as I mainly lurk in this sub. Also on mobile, so please excuse any mishaps. Well, I was on my way to work and decided to stop for some coffee at Starbucks that's inside of Target if that matters. My work attire is all black. I went up to the counter and went to order as the cashier leans in close and says, "Hey girl, we can't do any drinks today for workers. I'm sorry." Obviously I was majorly confused but then quickly realized she assumed I worked there due to my outfit. I told her I don't work there and sorry for the confusion. She goes on to say, "Well, would you like a job here? It's $15.50 an hour." I said yes of course because that would be a jump of $3.50 more than I make now. I got the job 2 days ago. I don't work here lady, or do I? A mistake that led to a good ending. The next story is titled Yes, I Work in Retail. No, I'm not a babysitter. When this happened, I was working as a checkout chick in a supermarket, and it was between one of the COVID lockdowns in Australia when non-essential stores had opened for a bit. I was at a shopping center in H&M getting some of the basics I'd been needing to replace, new pair of jeans, singlets etc. When an entitled mother, mask down to her chin, I sadly recognized as being a regular annoying customer at my store, march up with her little boy Gollum 4 to 5. Side note. I had worked at the same store for several years and had seen Gollum grow from a normal kid to an entitled brat, and she had previously tried to trick me into babysitting Gollum while I was at work. Hey, I just need to grab a few things. Could you watch my baby for a quick sec? Turns to walk away. Me. Sorry, no, I can't. And, you may not have noticed but your mask isn't on quite right. I was getting very sick of reminding customers about this but couldn't help it. Storms back over. Have you got something better to do? Me. That doesn't matter. Don't you work here? I'm a paying customer and you need my business. Me. No, I don't work here, but that wouldn't matter. This is a clothes shop and people here are working, so no one can babysit. She said a few more things before storming off, dragging Gollum, who had begun pulling things off the rack. At my next shift I was dreading the encounter when she came up to my register. Gollum was screaming in the trolley about wanting macas, but she didn't act any different. I guess she hadn't recognized me and just assumes that all retail workers look the same and exist to do her bidding. The next story is titled A Kid in a Candy Shop. Okay, this is about my husband, American Thunder. It's his CB handle lol. He's 6 feet 2 inches and he was a bouncer for 12 years. We went to a restaurant that has a very large number of fine whiskeys from around the world available to serve, and they are on display. The staff uniform is black tops with the restaurant logo ranging from t-shirts to hoodies, and whatever pants they'd like to wear. American Thunder was wearing a black t-shirt, jeans, and cowboy boots. American Thunder loves whiskey. Our whole bar has all kinds of various whiskeys. In this restaurant, they are all displayed floor to ceiling behind the bar, and he was standing there staring like a little kid in a candy store that can't commit to any one choice, when one of the bar patrons approached him and asked if he could slide 2 tables together. American Thunder didn't catch what he said the first time as he fully focused on the whiskeys. The guy asked again. American Thunder finally tore his gaze from the delectable selection of sweet, sweet nectar of the gods, and turned his gaze to the guy who interrupted his worship. The guy asked again. American Thunder said, "I don't care what you do. I don't work here, so knock yourself out. Stack the tables if you like." American Thunder smiled and walked back to our table. The guy followed American Thunder with a befuddled look on his face. I about died laughing. The next story is titled I Don't Work Here But. So, this just happened at work today and I thought I'd share it. I'm a shift supervisor for a retail drugstore chain. Regardless of your position at the store, your shirt has the company name and logo on it. On occasion, the store manager will wear business casual if he must do something outside the store. We all wear a lanyard with the company logo on it with our name tag and scan card at the end. When you walk in, there are 3 cash registers next to each other. About 3 feet in front of the registers is a 3 feet tall wall with candy, magazines, and other impulse buys. Customers wait their turn in that 3 feet space. Quite often customers with a quick question will be on the other side of the wall to ask their question. So today the lunch rush happens, and I jump onto a register to help my front cashier get the line moving. As we're ringing customers up, a customer wearing business clothes approaches the wall. Let's call him John. John has a dress shirt, tie, and a name tag pinned to his shirt. From the design of the name tag I could tell he works at the hospice nearby. Quite a few of their employees are our customers and a lot of their patients get prescriptions from us. John says, "There's a man over there that is looking for men's hair dye." I told him I don't work here but you're busy, so I'll help him. I tell John while ringing up a customer, "Aisle 2 between the men's razors and the deodorant." John responds, "Where's aisle 2? I say, "Right behind you." John sees the aisle marker and goes help the man. I can see aisle 2 from where I'm standing, and I see John helping a much older man find and pick out hair dye. The older man proceeds with his shopping and so does John. The next time I see John, he's finished paying for his stuff and leaving when I run up to him and say, "Thank you." John waves and leaves. The next story is titled Neighbor Tries to Steal Driveway. I am new to Reddit and this is my first post, but I figured this is worth sharing. My next neighbor, I will call her Jen, recently discovered that 3 square meters of our second driveway are on her land. She recently bought a new car, Mazda Mix-5. One night Jen was looking outside at our driveway, so my parents and I went outside. She invited us to look at her new car, so we went and looked at it. Very nice car. She then started discussing where she could park it. She started talking about installing a new driveway next to ours. We had no problem with this. Our driveway is made of pavers and we looked outside one day and she was digging up plants that lined our driveway but are on her drive. My family thought this was weird but didn't do anything about it. A couple days later she was outside digging up all the pavers on our driveway. My mother went outside and talked to her. She was planning just to park on our driveway just while she was constructing hers. We just decided to let her keep going because she was doing a great job on repaving our driveway. The next day we found what part of our driveway she owned, and it was a tiny triangle just on the boundary to the council's land. Council's land stretches 3 meters into everyone's land where a footpath would be. Later that day we saw her reinstalling the pavers and then installing some of her own. We called the local council and asked about the legality of her parking there, and it is actually illegal for her to park there because that would be blocking a footpath and you can't legally park on the council's land. My dad confronted her about the fact it's illegal to park there and she is blocking our access to our land, and she just said she doesn't care. This came as quite a surprise as she has always been nice to us in past. Then that leads to today. She was out there installing the last of her pavers and then hopping in her car and parking her car on our driveway. We also found out that she had never planned to make her own driveway, but because she owns a tiny bit of our driveway it's now hers. Anyway, that's what's happened up to today. I'll give an update if anyone wants it in about a week. The next story is titled I Couldn't Say No. I was doing my grocery shopping, hoping to hurry up and get out before the evening rush. As I rounded a corner, an elderly lady was blocking the way. I said excuse me and was going to go around her when she looked at me and said, "Can you help me?" I could not bring myself to say, "I don't work here." I just said, "Of course." She needed help reaching some items on a higher shelf. I'm only 5'6", so I had to reach on my tippy toes, but I was glad to help. One item I couldn't reach, so I enlisted the help of another shopper who grabbed the item with a smile. She said thank you and went on her way. Team effort. The next story is titled Mistaken for Lululemon Employee. My friend and I often hang out in the form of running errands together. Last week, I accompanied her on a shopping trip and she wanted to try on some stuff at Lululemon. I was just there for company, moral support. So I was happily exchanging sizes and colors for her and just chatting through the door while she tried stuff on. At some point, I take a seat and start doing the Wordle. A woman accompanying her daughter, maybe, says to me, "Excuse me. Okay, so we've been watching you running around waiting on this one woman. Meanwhile we've been waiting for 5 minutes. Can we get a room or what?" For some reason I was compelled to apologize and then say I didn't work there. She didn't follow up with an apology or anything, just said, "Okay. What is it like to be that bold?" The next story is titled 5-Year-Old Asked if this is the phone number for a retail store. This happened about 30 years ago. I was the a-hole in this situation, but, in my defense, I was 5. My family's home phone number was 1 digit off from a sporting goods store in my town called Joe Jones. Naturally, we'd get a fair number of calls from people with the wrong number. We had caller ID, so my parents would see an unfamiliar number on the ringing phone and say, "Looks like it might be someone trying to call Joe Jones again." They'd pick up and say, "Hello? I'm sorry, you have the wrong number." And then just hang up and say, "Yep. Joe Jones again." Now, since I was 5, I failed to realize two key things about this situation. Joe Jones was the name of a store, not a person. Easy mistake to make. That it was different people calling each time. Since my parents could always tell when it was a call for Joe Jones, I thought it was always the same number that they kept recognizing. I had only ever used the speed dial, ask your parents what that was, to make an outgoing call, so I assumed some friend of Joe had just misprogrammed their phone to call us instead of him and was lazy about fixing it. I was annoyed this person kept bothering us. Then came the day. My dad was at work and my mom was home with me. She was busy with something when the phone rang and asked me to answer it. I went over to the kitchen phone, reached up to pull it off the hook, and said, "Hello? Hi. Is this Joe Jones?" I was finally talking to the person who had been bothering us. I summoned up all the righteous fury young me could muster and said very sternly into the phone, "No. He doesn't live here. Stop calling us." My mom jumped up and snatched the phone from me to apologize to the caller and smooth things over. After she hung up, she took the time to talk to me to make sure I understood what was going on and how to be polite over the phone. She wasn't angry. These days, I always try to be polite on the phone, regardless of the situation. I think back to this incident as being the day I learned that lesson. Thanks, Mom. I miss you. The next story is titled Medieval Mishap, Wholesome. This happened not too long ago at my state's Renaissance Fair. I am a big nerd like most of my friends, so we decided to go to the fair to shake things up. We watched shows, played games, ate food, but most importantly we started to buy pieces of costumes to slowly create our characters from scratch. At one point my friend, we'll call him Bob for this story, wanted to get a very specific hat for his rogue. After traveling to every store in the fair we found a nice little shop near the main entrance for his needs. As Bob is browsing, a man politely taps him on the shoulder and asks, "Hey, do you by chance have this bandana in a smaller size?" Bob turned around to say the usual words, but when the man sees his face he goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you worked here." Bob, being the nice guy he is, says no problem. But what was cute is that the little boy that the dad was with really liked Bob's costume. So the dad asked for a picture, which Bob agreed to, and we went our separate ways with the biggest grin on Bob's face I had ever seen. The next story is titled Made Someone a Coffee because they insisted I worked at the cafe. I'm 14, meaning that I'm currently not allowed to get a job without parent permission. I don't look older than I am, so that's why I seemed pretty confused as to why he was surprised I didn't work there. I'm not sure what time it was, but there was only a few people in the cafe, and they were somewhat regular customers, so I wasn't really worried about the fact that I was behind the bar since I didn't expect anyone to come up and order. But then, some random dude, maybe late 30s or 40s, barges in and yells rudely for me to make him a black coffee. Also, the other people there were studying, so it's not like it was loud inside. I'm a little bit freaked out, and try to explain that I don't actually work there. He proceeds to get even more angry and flat out says that he doesn't care, he just wants the ducking coffee. Now me, being the doormat I am, just squeaked, "1 sec," and ran to the back. I told my cousin what was happening, but she was basically elbows deep in dishwater and soap from cleaning out one of the machines and asked if I could just take his order. So I went back to the bar, took his order, to which he snorted angrily and told me he already said he wanted black coffee. But apparently he actually wanted black coffee with steamed milk, and tried my best to make it well. After he had paid and I'd handed him his coffee, my cousin walked out and he took a moment looking at her uniform, which has the name and logo of the cafe emblazoned on the apron, and just says to me accusingly, "You don't work here," and then just walks out of the shop. I have since stopped hanging out behind the bar, for obvious reasons. Anyways, screw you Dan, you didn't even leave a tip. Also, for context, my cousin works at a small mom and pop cafe and I visit her whenever I'm done with class. I have fairly basic knowledge on how to make coffee. I can use a coffee machine and add cream, sugar, etc. Just from observing my cousin, and making it at home myself. I don't blame the guy for assuming I worked there, because being behind the bar when I wasn't really supposed to was 100% my mistake. Hope that clears some stuff up. The next story is titled Thank You for the Validation. I shop normally and I have been asked if I work at Joann Fabrics, Kohl's, Home Goods, and today it was Home Depot. I have just been really confused as to what it is about me that makes people ask this question, so it was a weird relief to find this Reddit and see it happens a lot. Today, I was wearing one of those gagged NASA shirts, and someone at Home Depot asked if I worked there. I kind of struggled to process what he said, and looked down at my outfit, and back up at him, and he pitched a huge fit about me just needing to answer a yes or no question. To which, I tried to be polite and explain my confusion, and he just became more of a toddler than he started with. Luckily there wasn't any physical altercation, but I left wondering just why the heck does this keep happening and how, besides not wearing an apron and name tag, do I make this stop? The next story is titled "He Does Work Here, Fooled You." This tale is a little different from the usual. No Karens are involved, nor police, the military, entitled people. But it was most amusing at the time. To set the scene, we have a holiday home in the south of Spain which we have visited for several weeks a year for over 30 years now. Nearby is a wonderful beach restaurant that we go to for lunch about 4 times a week. Over the years we must have been there over 500 times. When we first went, the restaurant was owned and run by an elderly couple, but when they retired, about 20 years ago, their 2 sons and their young daughter took over the business, which they still run today. So to say we know them well would be a considerable understatement. They employ about 6 to 8 other staff, who gradually come and go over the years. The other significant detail is that everybody wears a matching uniform, and they change the uniform, or at least the color scheme, every year. Yesterday was our first visit this year, and the stars aligned for some fun. By complete chance, and just about the first time ever, I turned up wearing exactly the same uniform as the staff, bright orange polo shirt and navy blue shorts. So as we did all the greeting and back slappings and, "How are you?" much fun was made by the 2 brothers of my attire. Without saying anything more, the elder brother Manuel, not his name, disappeared into the kitchen. A minute later a new, to us, waitress appeared, looking flustered and marching over to our table. This was, say, Maria, also not her name, and this was, apparently, her first year working there. She started loudly demanding that I get back to work pronto, and that the boss had told her how lazy I was and was on a final warning. She got very shouty when I started arguing that I didn't work there, and the other customers were greatly enjoying the spectacle. After a couple of minutes Manuel reappeared and rescued me, and explained to her the joke. She went very, very red, and I learned a couple of new NSFW Spanish words. But we're all friends now, and Maria has been properly introduced. And the drinks were free. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.